Good afternoon. Welcome to the stream. Another day, another live stream. Real Talk with Mary Grace. It is the 24th of June, 2021. And here we are for another episode. Welcome to everybody that's here. Good to see everybody. Please share as you're coming in. Please say hello. And if you're coming in after, thank you for watching the replay. And then also, please leave a comment if you're coming in afterwards. And I would appreciate that. Anytime you leave a comment on the replay, it helps get the show up into the feed for YouTube and Facebook. So that would be great. And then also on Facebook, please share this into groups and then tag your friends. And also on YouTube, hit the thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and hit the bell so that you don't miss an episode. And it looks like we've got a ton of people coming in on YouTube. That's fantastic. So we're on YouTube, Facebook as Mary Grace Media. We're on Clout Hub, channel 111, Mary Grace Media. And we are on YouTube, on Twitter. I always forget because I got banned. But I'm on my backup channel, which is Real Mary Grace 1, the number 1. So if you're watching on Twitter, hey, haven't seen the Twitter people in so long. But it's good to see everybody here. And I hope everybody got to yesterday's show. I was told that it was a good show. And so I hope you get an opportunity to go and watch it. That would be great. And let me just check on something. So something interesting came across my radar over the past day. And I think it's, I don't know, I think it's kind of telling. I think that I've pointed out to you before the kind of activity that comes up on the Instagram page for the White House, and that most of the people who make comments over there are actually patriots and people like us who followed the White House Instagram initially because of Real 45. And then when the usurper came in, we were still following that page, at least I was. And so things would come up on the page. They post on it pretty regularly, and the comments are almost all anti 46. And they're pretty funny. If you want some real entertainment, I suggest that you go over and follow that Instagram page and then just read the comments. It'll make you feel good because there's hardly anybody on there that is truly a follower or devotee of Faker 46. And most of the ones that are following him and commenting over there are bots. So it's truly delightful to read the comments. I suggest you refollow and just go in and read the comments because it's sheer entertainment. And on that note, I just was alerted to a tweet that came up uh, under Faker 46's Twitter account. And it says, now here they're trying to push more panic porn about a new variant, and it's got a picture of the sociopath. He's the sociopath is making the rounds now, trying to scare people about the new variant and trying to force people to get the Jabberwocky. This is how you know he's a sociopath. He's not content. He didn't even slow down when they revealed all of his treachery and all of the emails. I told you this is Hillary on steroids. This is a person that delights in seeing his handiwork displayed for all the world to see. He's like a baby Hannibal Lecter. I told you, baby Mengele. That's this guy. So they put his video up on Faker 46's Twitter. By the way, let me see how many followers Faker 46. So uh, the guy that got 81 million votes has 12 million followers. I'm sure that's just a coincidence. 12 million. But let me just look at this tweet. He says, "Here's the deal." It's so um, insulting for the commander in chief or whoever he's supposed to be to talk like that. Here's the deal. The Delta variant is more contagious, it's deadlier, it's spreading quickly around the world, blah, 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 leaving young, un-Jabberwockied people uh, more vulnerable than ever. Please, please get Jabberwockied if you haven't already. Let's head off this strain before it's too late. First of all, if you know anything about about these types of things, every year, when they come out with a new flu shot, it's not the same one every year. It's based on a new strain. And so they're trying to push this current version of the pandemic shot on people using scare tactics of a brand new variant. Does that, like, people's logic has gone completely out the window. Now, that's not the point that I wanted to make here, though. What the point that I wanted to make is that if you can still access Twitter, and if you can still, uh, you can still, you can read this, and I want you to read these comments. Now, here, this is actually a good comment. This person says, I had the thing, just like everyone else I know, but God, please get somebody that can message accurate information. This is just false. Not only are cases plummeting in places like Colorado that are Delta dominant, but they are simply zero data showing Delta more deadly. Thank you, person who already got the thing, the Jabberwocky. Thank you for standing up to this. However, um, what I wanted to point out to you is that if you look at the comments under this this tweet, first of all, you get 7,000 retweets for a guy that got 81 million votes. Really? Most popular president ever? 7,000 retweets? Guys, I had tweets that got like 4 times that engagement with my little account before it got paralyzed, before it got deleted. All right. Yeah, they want you to get last year's for this year's thing. Apparently, they're not selling enough. All right, but then, but here's what I think is so funny: the comments under here, they're supposed to be, pro, they're supposed to be pro 46. I would say that 90% of them are shill accounts and bot accounts. They're put there specifically to drive a narrative. They're part of the propaganda machine, and this is something that that people hopefully understand by now. That the people driving the narrative, that the propaganda organizations that are pushing these narratives and pushing the fear and trying to sell the shot, because let's face it, it's a money maker for them. That everybody that's pushing this, they're using the classic propaganda tools, and one of those tools is that they have bot farms, and that this is one way that they've infiltrated the social media. And if you recall, if you remember under Real 45, that there were Twitter accounts that would just flood his replies with absolutely horrid, disgusting messaging, and that a lot of that was just bots that were programmed to go into his replies, and then the Twitter overlords programmed it so that those replies would go to the top, and that it would look like everybody hated Real 45, when in fact the opposite was true. It's just that they were suppressing the replies from the people that like me. And so in this case, what they're doing is they're pushing up these replies from all of these Twitter accounts, and they have names like, I don't know, Chad Zumach, Jeff with a Geoff, so somebody British, JK with no profile picture, Flower Child, and these are people that are getting, one like, one retweet. These are all fake accounts. All right. And so it just um it's worth looking at because it gives you an understanding of what we're dealing with here, that this is a completely illegitimate regime, that they're literally propping up this person. And in the meantime, we have Real 45 out there. I keep saying he's tweeting, but out there sending out messages and putting out statements all day long. And yesterday he put out a statement about Ducey and said that it's come to his attention that Doug Ducey in Arizona is not running for reelection, and that if he did, he would get completely destroyed because Real 45 wouldn't endorse him. It was a really good it was a really good statement. It was very funny, but the whole point is that everything is even though Mr. supposedly 81 million votes is supposedly in charge, the person that is taking up all the oxygen in the room and getting all the attention right now is actually Real 45. And all of the press wants to be around him. They had more media requests for this upcoming rally this weekend than they had in 2019 and 2020 combined for media access to this rally that he's doing in Ohio. Think about that. It's pretty interesting. And so when you see a Faker 46 event, how many how many press do you even see there? I mean, who actually wants to go, for one thing? And so I know that some of you think that things are moving at a glacial pace in terms of justice and of getting things done. But I really feel confident that not only have we, I think we've already won, but that oh, thank you, Delia, for correcting that. Ducey's not running for Senate. Okay. So going back to the Ducey thing, that's what it was. He said he's not going to run for Senate, and if he did, I wouldn't endorse him, and he wouldn't win anyway. That's what Real 45 said. Thank you. Okay, so so but the point about Real 45 is that I feel like things are moving in a direction. Well, I know they're moving in a direction that's good for us, but there's some little signs that I think people are missing and maybe not even talking about. And one of those is he put out a statement last week about Jason Miller. So Jason Miller was his spokesperson. And oh, look, we've got Belgium and Germany in the house. Hello, Europe. Hello. Um, he put out a statement uh, about Jason Miller stepping down and Liz Harrington taking his place as the spokesperson for Real 45. And there was a little line in the statement that said that Jason Miller would be returning to the private sector. Did anybody catch that? Did anybody see that little part of that statement? Some people may have missed it because the statement that he put out, it wasn't one of his explosive ones that makes all the media come running. It was more of a like a press release. This is what's happening today. It was last week. Give me a show of hands of who saw that one. The thing that drew my attention immediately was when he said that Jason Miller would be returning to the private sector. So how does one return to the private sector if you're working for a private citizen already? Can somebody explain that to me? How is it that in June of 2021, 6 months after the fake inauguration, that you have the spokesperson for the person that supposedly stepped down returning to the private sector? I don't, I'm trying to figure that out. It's little things like that. Now maybe I am, yeah, maybe I'm missing that. Maybe there's something official about that I'm not getting. But I also saw a statement that said that there are I think 17 people that are still on the government payroll, 17 people from his administration, from Real 45. I don't know. Does that sort of make your spidey senses tingle to hear that? Because wouldn't even if you stay with 45, wouldn't you go from the public sector to the private sector on the 20th of January at 20 on 20 at noon, at 12 noon, 12:01 p.m.? I know. I know. I mean, I just that's interesting to me because technically Real 45 went to the private sector, right? He's considered a private citizen now. Um I don't know. I just want you to think about that. And he's still working for Real 45, Jason Miller is. Um and that begs the question that now, so Liz Harrington, who is she working for? Who's paying her paycheck? I don't know. It's just something to think about. Hey, Jim, long time no talk to. Um, it's like, does anybody? It really. I think about it every day since then. It really comes up a lot. Delia thinks there's a 6-month transition period. Well, does that mean that Real 45 was still getting paid? That he was in the transition period? I don't know about that because I thought that when people leave the administration, that was like literally like at 12:01 on that day. That's it. I mean, look at Kaylee. Kaylee left. Like everybody left. They're done. So I don't know. I mean, I'm just putting that out there because I think it's worth thinking about. Speaking of sectors, so I think you guys all know this, but Karen just pointed out that he donated his paycheck. I get that, but the paychecks are still written. So my point is, did he get a paycheck in February or March or April? I don't think so. I think he immediately went from that to the private sector. So why would Jason Miller still not be in the private sector? Maybe I just don't know how things work. All right. I just think it's interesting. So how crazy is it that Kamala is finally getting her act together to go down to the border? She got shamed into doing it basically because she couldn't stand to have them uh, show her up because Real 45 is going there down there at the invitation of Governor Abbott. I just think that's very interesting. So we'll see what that's like. I Here's what I think is going on with Kamala. Let me just tell you my theory. You may disagree, but here's what I think is happening. So is Kamala is she was supposed to be Hussein 2.0. Let me back up a little bit. Let me back up to the 25th of April 2019. Does anybody know what that date represents? That is the day that Creepy Joe uh, Creepy Joe announced that he was running for president, just in case you didn't file that away. And when that happened, I went on the FEC filing and I looked it up that very day. And I noticed something. I noticed that he didn't have any money, that he had no war chest. And um and it was pretty far into the season. All right. And and so I immediately sensed that that Faker 46, Creepy Joe, was just a placeholder. I knew that from the start. I knew, I had a sense that they were going to install him, or that he was a placeholder, that he was going to get the nomination, and then somebody else would come along, something would happen to put him in the nomination. That was my feeling about that, and I was pretty much right. And so that's what I thought. And then and then they brought in Kamala. She was sort of a wild card. We didn't know who was going to be along on the ticket with him. And then they brought in Kamala. Um, oh, she's going to Kamala's going to El Paso. Well, let's see if she can find her way to the border. Maybe she is going to stop at Taco Bell and think that's the border. Maybe she'll go to south of the border on 95 and she'll get confused and come home with a sombrero and giggle the whole way home. I don't know. But so let's go back to 46. So Faker 46, they put him in, they installed him, and then I think that they had to come up with somebody that was. I think they had a couple people in mind that were going to replace him. I think Kamala was one of them, and she, if you look at her whole persona, it's almost a carbon copy of Hussein. And I'm not going to go into the details right now of why I think that, but I think that you can, if you really just look at the parallels, there are a ton of parallels. You can extrapolate what I mean. But I think the intention was that she was going to be the chosen one. And what ended up happening, what I hear from insiders on the ground, is that she was really terrible material that they didn't have enough to work with, that she's uncoachable, unruly, kind of dumb, and so it was basically just the the looks, right? That's really all they had, but there wasn't much happening between the ears, and so I think that they kind of got stuck with her. And I've heard some prophets say that that they're going to leave her high and dry, that they're going to be uh that they're going to be that she's going to be betrayed. And I actually kind of believe that, because I feel like if they were going to move her into position, that it would have been done. But I just have a feeling that, they it's dawning on them that both of their people, that they just don't have anything to work with. Basically, it's like it, it's like when you think that you have this, amazing cast, and everybody just shows up drunk and stoned every day, and you can't actually produce the play. This is what they're dealing with. The whole thing is broken. And so even if they wanted to put her in position, I think they've realized that she would actually be more of a liability than Creepy Joe, because I think that she's a wild card, and I think that she would fly off the handle. I think she'd go rogue, to be honest. And it's a dangerous probability. That's my theory about that. So we'll see what happens. I mean, I just, and there may be people saying, okay, you're bashing on women or whatever, that, we should stick together. No, I'm not sticking together with somebody just because they have lady parts and they got into a position of power. That is actually very sexist. So I stick with people based on the content of their character and on what they've actually accomplished. So she doesn't get a pass from me just because she's got the equipment. I'm sorry, that's not the way I do this. And so yeah, she's. I don't know what's going to happen with her, but I don't think she's ever going to get the golden scepter and the keys to the kingdom. I don't think it's going to happen. So, what do you guys think? I mean, it looks like I'm getting a lot of agreement here. Okay, everybody agrees. So, let me jump to something else. Somebody just put a comment here that I wanted to see. The prophets say that her party will turn against her and she will turn against them. I think that's going to happen on some fronts. I think that there are some people that are going to turn, and who are going to say, or who are going to turn themselves in, who are going to come over to the light side, leave the dark side. I think that that is going to happen. Oh, this is the comment. Somebody said, a Marine I know says 45's picture is still up at the bases. Uh, well, remember yesterday when I was talking about maybe paying a little visit to the VA? I'm kind of curious about it, and now I'm kind of curious. I kind of want to go in there and see if I can get my dad an appointment, and then also see what kind of pictures they have up on the wall. I um, I want to thank the people that put in the comments the suggestions for how to get through to the VA. I do appreciate that. So thank you everybody that gave me those suggestions. Those are very good suggestions. So I appreciate it. I still actually might go storming into the VA. I mean, in a like a non-threatening way. Um, okay. Uh, okay. Here's an interesting thing. Uh, Wide Awake on YouTube says, I wanted to point out that VP48 bought a house in Carmel, Indiana. So I went through the registry of deeds and he had POA for Karen and it was notarized in DC in May 2021. Makes so no sense. Why is she in DC still? What do you mean he had POA for Karen? That he was the power of attorney, that it was bought in her name or his name? Can you elaborate on that? Um, that's interesting. Maybe we'll go down there. Uh, did I see the video that came out with her walking the red carpet with Montel back in the day? He introduced her to the press. Did the grooming start then? Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, that's how they do it, right? Um, okay, here's back to VP 48. Uh, he signed the mortgage on her behalf. That's probably like a tax situation. She's a teacher in DC, so maybe she's finishing out, I don't know, the school year. So I don't know the situation. Um, who knows? Yeah, she may be just there for work. People can't extract themselves from DC. It's not that easy. Okay, I was talking yesterday about critical race theory, and I wanted to get back to it just for a second because I was talking yesterday about how it was actually one of the most racist things that you could do. And one of the things that I came across one of the things I came across was that it actually could be a violation of the Civil Rights Act because the Civil Rights Act doesn't say that you cannot discriminate against somebody who's black or brown. It says that you cannot discriminate based on the color of somebody's skin. I mean, I'm paraphrasing here, but that means that all of these situations that are actually coming in racist against white people, they're turning, like I said, all of the gains that we made with the Civil Rights Act, they're all being reversed because they're just flipping it. It's just they're turning the discrimination on white people now. It's still discrimination. It's still discriminate. It's racial discrimination. It's racial profiling. It's racial everything. And it's a very bad situation. So I would keep an eye on that. And I think that if you are in a situation like that where you believe that you're being discriminated against, whatever color you are, whatever your skin color is, that's important that you document that because either way, regardless of the justification, I mean, they can come up with all kinds of reasons to tell you that you can't have that job or that you shouldn't get promoted or that you shouldn't be allowed into that ceremony or that building or whatever. That if it's based at all on the color of your skin, that is a violation of the Civil Rights Act. So make sure that you follow up with that and that you seek out counsel because that is that's a blatant violation of the Civil Rights Act. And the reversal started with affirmative action. It absolutely did. And when I lived in South Africa, I saw an interesting phenomenon because I was there pretty shortly after the end of apartheid. And and what was happening at that time, first of all, the purge was starting in Zimbabwe. So if anybody knows about that situation, Mugabe was the president of Zimbabwe, which is formerly Rhodesia, and that country was largely settled by whites, and a lot of the white farmers in Zimbabwe actually were responsible for building a great deal of the infrastructure in that country, including schools and hospitals, and bringing it out of third world status into developing nation status. And so Mugabe actually, his policies set back Zimbabwe at least 100 years, and there was an incredible an incredible purge there of the white farmers, and a lot of them were fleeing for their safety because the um, the blacks were being gaslit into believing that the white man was the oppressor and that the people that had actually been living there side by side with them for generations were now their enemy. Does that sound familiar? It was the same tactic. And because of what he was doing, it was actually driving down the economy in Zimbabwe pretty badly. And they were also having uh, the equivalent of civil war. And so, and when I was in South Africa, they were coming out of apartheid, and the way that they handled it was really bad. And because not only did you have you had an entire population, it was a lot like the end of the Civil War in the United States, that you had an entire population that was emancipated more or less, and but who had no skills, no training. They hadn't been treated as citizens. They were treated as second class citizens, and so they were thrust into the marketplace, thrust into the education system, or kept out, whatever the case may be. But they weren't skilled. But they started to enact affirmative action almost immediately, and because of that, it was they were displacing people who had been in positions on in merit-based jobs. They were just putting um, they were just putting people into positions because of their skin color. They were throwing affirmative action into high gear in South Africa, and in the process, they were implementing critical race theory and teaching people who had been either colored or black. They were teaching them that they were oppressed and that every white person was their enemy. And it's an interesting situation in South Africa because the whites are the minority, and it was very interesting to witness it, being there, living there, to have people who were being taught that a person that you didn't really think of one way or the other 5 years before was now your enemy just by virtue of the color of their skin. So that it was, in my opinion, what they were doing and the attitude and the the mindset that was coming down from top leadership was really reversing the progress that they made when they ended apartheid. And a lot of that was actually spilling over from what was happening in in Zimbabwe. So it was a trickle down effect. And I know that there's a lot. I know that there's a lot more details that I'm leaving out here. I'm giving you a 5 minute version of what's happening in Southern Africa, but it is it's the point is that I saw it happening then. I saw it happening in 2003, the last time, 2005, the last time that I was in Cape Town. And I was on a flight. I was on a South African Airways flight, and I was treated abysmally by the flight attendant, just because of the way I looked. And it was sad to me because this person had such a chip on their shoulder, and they were so angry, and it was it was unnecessary. You know, I was polite. I was kind of like, there was nothing I had done to cause that. It was just that they were being the critical race theory, the gaslighting was in full swing by then. And so the other thing that ended up happening is that um, the other thing that was happening there is that all of the um, all of the educated workers there, many of whom were white, were actually leaving and going to the UK and Australia and other territories of the Commonwealth because they were getting passed over for jobs. It's a lot like what we see happening here, especially, for example, with the Asians. The Asians are actually getting discriminated against in Ivy League universities just because they're Asian, and so it was happening a lot there, and there was this massive talent drain uh, at um, at white collar levels because people were getting passed over for promotions, and the affirmative action was taking over. It's a very interesting phenomenon, and if it's something that interests you, I would definitely recommend that you dive into researching that, and so that you can get a little bit more of an understanding of what they're trying to do right here in the United States. It's interesting to me that they're doing it here because they're it's like they're trying to take us back to the 1950s or even further. And the thing that I saw when I lived in South Africa is that in many ways it felt like America in the 1950s. And if anybody is hearing me and you're thinking that I don't get the whole picture of what's going on in South Africa, and that I'm not understanding the oppression that blacks and coloreds lived under in that country, I think you're mishearing me. What I'm saying is that when you try to make societal change, it's really important that you don't allow the pendulum to swing so far in the area of correction that you do more damage than good in the process of trying to create a balance. The thing is, I don't think they were actually intending to create a balance, because Marxism, it doesn't, they don't want balance. They want a victim class, and they want a victor class. That's it. So um, they want to create they want to drive the sense of oppression in the masses. That's my thinking on that. So um, I don't know how I got off on that little tangent, but I guess I just wanted to give you an illustration of what I saw happening uh, 20, 2005, 16 years ago. And now it's really bad. The crime is really bad. And again, there's more parallels, because when you see what they're doing in America, if you go, like, again, one of the things that was so difficult about living in South Africa is that the crime was so it wasn't just violent crime, it was random crime. And what I mean by that is that you couldn't, up until recently in America, there are certain neighborhoods that you just knew, okay, it's after dark, you don't drive there, right? Um, and if you have a nice car, you don't drive in that neighborhood. There's neighborhoods in Chicago, for example, or in Baltimore, or things like that, where you just don't, you just know not to go. Well, what was happening in South Africa is that those lines were blurred. And so, for example, the neighborhood that I lived in was a kind of a bougie neighborhood. I lived in the Constantia area, which is all vineyards and a very kind of white collar area. And I was living at the school where I was teaching. So and then I had friends who lived in Bishop's Court, which is where Mandela had a house. And so it was a mixed neighborhood, but it was a very high end neighborhood. So it was just as likely that you would get carjacked, violently carjacked. We're talking, like, shooting the whole family at gunpoint and executing them in cold blood and taking their car, or sneaking into the gate as somebody was driving through the gate to get into their driveway, surrounding the car, stealing the car, uh, uh, taking over the house, and killing everybody. So that was just as likely to happen Bishop's Court as it was to happen in Khayelitsha, the the um, the slums. Actually, it was probably more likely to happen. But so that you couldn't. It wasn't there weren't just pockets of violence. There weren't just neighborhoods where you knew not to go there. It was happening randomly more and more. And so, and what is the parallel here? Well, look at what was happening last summer during all of the riots. Remember the couple in St. Louis that had to defend that was defending their property at gunpoint. I can't remember his name now, but that's the kind of thing I'm talking about. Now that was more organized. Uh, that was more organized rioting, but it's the same spirit behind it. It's the spirit that drives that group, Black Lives Matter. It's all about chaos and death and destruction and revenge, and that is the mindset that they're driving. That is what they want. They want people to be afraid. The McCloskeys, thank you. They want you to be like off your game, is what they want. They want you to be afraid to drive down your own street in your own neighborhood. Um, and that's what they achieved in South Africa. I mean, to be honest, that's one of the reasons I left because I wasn't from there, obviously, and I had been there a year, and I didn't feel safe because it was like that. I mean, I was, it was the kind of thing where if you're driving to the store and you're going to the grocery store, you think, for example, in my neighborhood, I feel pretty safe going 5 miles down the road to the grocery store. I know that when I get to a traffic light, I don't think I'm going to be carjacked. And but the way that it was in South Africa around Cape Town was that uh, I wouldn't, even though on the outside it should feel that way, that I could go to the grocery store and I'd be fine. It wasn't like that. It was changing so rapidly that I didn't feel safe, even I mean, even in a gated community, and it got so bad that people people would like when you go into your compound to your house, you would go through an automatic gate, and then you would have multiple alarms on your car. You would have a low jack on the car, and then you would have that steering wheel lock thing, right? You'd have to do all this even if you just stop the car to go run an errand. But even at your house, you would do this. And then you would go to get in your house, you would have to go through a locked gate. Instead of your screen door, you had a locked gate. And then in some houses, you would go into a courtyard and then you'd have like a locked gate from the living room to the upstairs. So where the bedrooms were upstairs, you would have a locked gate to keep anybody from coming upstairs while the family is asleep. This is true. This is what's happening, and that's the level of depravity and violence and desperation that they want for America. That's what they want. That's what they want this country to dissolve into, because that actually gives them even more reason to uh, federalize police and to take over the the country. Minnie says reminds me of the time I lived in Rio, Brazil. Exactly. Yeah, it's just like that. That's what they want. That's what they want for this country. Um, it's not the way you're supposed to live. um, yeah, it's not like that. Yeah, it's like that in Sicily. I believe it. Uh, Thank you for the analogies. We'll be using and crediting you when I draw comparisons with my family friends who cannot see past the show. Oh, good. Glad it's helping you, Lisa. And I hope those comparisons help. I'm not trying to I'm not trying to disparage any group, well, actually, I'm trying to disparage Marxists, but most of the people who are perpetrating these crimes, I believe, are actually victims of the brainwashing, the gaslighting. And this is how I feel about even the narrative that comes up a lot where people say that there's going to be civil war. How many of you have been in conversations with people on different aisles, different sides of the aisle, who say that they think that we're going into civil war? My answer to that is that the people who are pushing that narrative are the ones who are actually your enemy. The people that are pushing that narrative are the ones that they want you to think that your neighbor is your enemy, that a person with different colored skin is your enemy, that a person with a different economic status is your enemy, with a different gender is your enemy. That's what they want. The people that are pushing that, whether they're on this side of the political spectrum or that side of the political spectrum, that is your enemy. Those people are your enemy. And the problem that is happening right now for the elites, for the globalists that are pushing this, that are pushing us to get to go against each other, is that more and more people are starting to wake up. And so that narrative is crumbling because all of a sudden people are starting to realize, wait a minute, my neighbor is actually not my enemy. um, my neighbor may think differently from me about the face diaper, and maybe they got the Jabberwocky, and maybe they felt like they needed to, but the truth is they're not actually my enemy, and they're American just like me, and they're working and trying to raise their family, and they're being ripped off by these career politicians just like me. In many cases, they just haven't seen it yet, and so part of what we're doing here is we're trying to awaken the sleeping, whether it's and there's plenty of people who voted for Real 45 that are still very much asleep. All right. Um, so the the let's all just have peace and no enemies. That would be the best, but that will never come to be. I don't know. I don't know. I'm just reading this comment on Facebook. I mean, that's a little bit of a, I don't know. I don't know that that's could be. I mean, you know, the thing is, in the Bible, it says that Jesus is our peace. And so part of the challenge that we have is that the people that are driving this agenda, that are pushing this situation, that are pushing us to be each other's enemies, they are obviously not walking with God. And so until they have a revelation of that, until they repent and literally have a come to Jesus moment, then they actually are our enemies because they are doing the bidding of their father, the devil. So you can't make peace with the devil. You um, the only way that we have peace is to have Jesus in our hearts. I mean, that's just the way it is. So there, so the people who think, um, it's interesting that I was thinking about this. I mean, it's an interesting observation because when you hear people say, "Oh, I just want world peace," that's actually not possible. Um, what they really want is an end to the endless wars. That's what they want. And what they want is what they want, but they don't know that it's what they want, is they want the people that have been at the highest levels pulling the strings for so long and spending your money on their own self-interest. What they want is for them to stop using you like chattel and pushing you and your children into endless wars and profiting off of it, or pushing their products, that pushing their, I don't want to say the word because the companies that make all these things and make massive profits off of that, they have so much control over the airwaves. The people that make things like the Jabberwocky, those companies have so much power over pretty much everything. And if people really saw the evil agenda behind what is going on and what has been going on for a very long time, and how the working man and woman in this country and around the world is actually used to fund their evil agenda, then we would unite in a way that would actually destroy them. And I think that's what's happening. That's what we call the Great Awakening. So we have a combination of events that are taking place right now. We have the people who are waking up. I mean, let's face it, people are way more awake now than they were a year ago, or 2 years ago, or 3 years ago. I mean, the pandemic really woke people up. The pandemic woke up people that we never thought would be awake. And so we have that part of the Great Awakening, and then we have people coming to the Lord. We have people coming to salvation because of what they're seeing happen. And the people that are the people um, that are seeing this happen, I think are, sorry, I just got distracted by a comment. The people that are waking up um, are doing it at a rate that I think was not anticipated by the powers that be. Um, and so I think I see a pretty massive great awakening happening right now. It's an exciting time to be alive. And um, yeah, those companies, Millie had a point on YouTube. So the companies that I'm talking about, they actually drive the narrative to a great degree. And they're the ones that, for example, when it came to pushing the lockdowns, when it came to pushing get people getting the Jabberwocky, all of that, uh, there aren't it, there's pretty much one central entity that's pushing all of that. And so my point is, until that gets eradicated, there's no such thing as world peace, because that entity, the cabal, the globalists, the elites, whatever you want to call it, they have they have a vested interest in keeping us at each other's throats and keeping us um, enemies of each other. And so I think that, but I do think that I do think that um, there's a massive change coming. And it's interesting because if you, Millie pointed out something to me. If how many of you watch Elijah streams? How many of you are listening to some of the major prophetic voices like Johnny Enlow and Kat Kerr, and Johnny Enlow, Kat Kerr, uh, Manny, the people that Elijah streams is featuring, Pastor Hank Kahneman, those people. Something that's happening that I'm seeing a lot of these people who are coming out, and they're prophesying, they're having dreams, they're having visions, they're seeing things that God is showing them about what's to come. And it's very interesting because I had I've been there a lot of things that I've been talking about over the past even 3 or 4 years. I have been prophesying things that now these much bigger name prophets are coming out with. It's kind of interesting. It's like you have people like me who have a smaller voice that are laying the groundwork, and maybe just some people needed to hear it at that time when I said certain things. I mean, Millie remembered it, and now we're hearing things that are coming out. For example, who remembers when I talked about the dream that I had and the thing that God told me about people coming out into the streets and celebrating and having a massive celebration, and that 45 was back in office. Do you remember when I talked about that a couple of months ago? Well, just the other day, somebody went on Elijah streams, and they described a dream that they had that was almost identical to that. But here it is. So then it was going out. My dream, the thing that I saw, was going out on Elijah streams to way more people than heard me say it on my show. I just think that's interesting. Um, uh, Let me just see your comments. Yeah, Robin Bullock, Elijah Streams, uh, Amanda Grace. Yeah. So I think it's really cool that God is planting these seeds in people, I'm probably not the only one that is hearing the prophets say things that we've already seen ourselves. And I think that's another way that God gives confirmation. And by the way, I have people who sometimes come on my page and absolutely bash the prophets. It's a religious spirit. It's an antichrist spirit, and I know who you are. And some of you are already blocked, and if you come back, you'll get blocked again because I have I have tolerance for differing opinions. I have zero tolerance for the antichrist and Jezebel spirit. So just so you know that, I'm putting you on notice because you won't engage in conversation with me. You won't have any place on my page, on my wall, on any of my comments, or in my Telegram. So I just want to make that clear that if you're coming against the prophets and you're coming against the Lord's anointed, it's insta block. So, um, oh yeah, Justin Paul Abram. Um, yeah, Millie says, I totally remember that along with the real estate situation with the violence too. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that God has shown me that we're now seeing come to pass. I mean, I prophesied that California would go red in 2020. It did. We all know it did. And a lot of people laughed when I said that. And it's going to come out. The truth is going to come out that it happened. And people are now confirming that. They just haven't had the audit yet. But, they're recalling nuisance, the governor. So that's pretty cool. I just looked at the time and it's almost 6:30. It's hard to believe how quickly the time flies here. Let me just check your comments here, see if I missed anything. See if I missed it. You guys have been very chatty today. Don't forget to like this if you're following on YouTube right now. Just hit the thumbs up. And then also on Facebook, make sure that you're following the Facebook page. Make sure that you like and follow Mary Grace Media, the page on Facebook, and then tag your friends in the comments on Facebook and then share this broadcast into groups. It helps to get this broadcast out because as you know, Suckabuck and those guys don't actually like it that we speak the truth. And continue, please pray for me. Pray for the other brave patriots who are out there telling the truth and the people that are being targeted. Uh, that they're being targeted. For example, my friend Ann Vandersteel, General Flynn, who else? There's a lot of people, but people who are really standing up for the truth, please keep us in your prayers and just pray for protection, pray for safety, pray just for angelic intervention against things that might come against us. I really do appreciate that. So I will be back on Monday at 5:30 Eastern. And I also want to remind everybody to write to me, info@marygracemedia.com, and make sure that you get your promo code so that you can save over $100 off of your uh, superfoods. Don't forget about superfoods. It's summertime. This is a great time to do a transformation reset. We're also having a superfoods reset group start. It's already on Facebook, but there's a transformation starting in July. So this is a perfect time to order your superfoods. info@marygracemedia.com. Millie said, I prophetically spoke about Gen Z and trying to kill them too. Yeah, I did. It would be interesting if somebody could go through and actually remind me of all the things that I spoke prophetically, and maybe even when I did it, because some of these that I kind of have, I don't remember it all. Um, yeah, I remember that one though. Millie. I said Gen Z and the next generation will be the most innovative and world changing, most saved generation aside from World War II. Yeah. So God showed me, he told me that this is the hero generation. And that one of the reasons that they're trying to kill them in the womb. Um, so, oh, good. I can just get rid of him. Okay. So people get offended when you tell them that you're actually running a business and that you make money sometimes. It's crazy. They think that people who do broadcasting just sit around and have nothing else to do. Crazy. Anyway, um, this is what he said. Oh, okay, you just lost me when you started asking for money. Did I ask for money? Hmm, okay. Um, Spirit of offense, gone. Okay. Um, what else was I going to say? Yeah, so that prophecy that I had, the hero generation, and the coolest thing is that that I've heard other people coming out with that and saying that. And one of the things that we see happening is that when we gain ground uh on um on the abortion front, for example, now that we're gaining ground on that, then what are they doing? They're trying to mutilate our kids after they're born. Oh, you like that pink dress? Oh, you must be a girl. So they're trying to mutilate them. They're trying to castrate the children and snuff out life in any way possible because it's an anti-Christ spirit. And that's what it is. Okay, so just in case anybody didn't get the message that I'm not asking for money, I'm going to talk about my sponsor again, which is Mary Grace Superfoods. If you want to participate and you want to make lasting change in your own life and get what one of my listeners actually calls the fountain of youth, make sure you write to me, info@marygracemedia.com, so that you can save over $100 off of your own transformation. And I'm going to let you in on a little bit of a secret. I actually do get a commission when you buy superfoods because I have a business. It's called Mary Grace Superfoods. And when you buy from it, I actually make money. Amazing how that works in a capitalist society. Unreal. Wow. And somebody got offended by that. It's so funny. Anyway, um uh why is Superfoods her sponsor? Funny. I think that was I think she was just saying that I it is my sponsor. Anyway, but we won't get too far down that rabbit trail. But if you actually do want to partner with the show, you can. If you just want to go to the website marygracemedia.com and click sponsor, you can do that too. And that's okay because it is your choice. And I don't have my content behind a paywall, and I'm not asking you to pay to watch my content. Pretty amazing. Okay. Now, somebody just asked, where is Anne these days? Anne Vandersteel is on her website, steeltruth.com. Steeltruth.com. And you can find her content there. She's doing some really good work and getting noticed for it. And she's been in this fight for a long time, and so I want to really give her kudos because she has one of the strongest work ethic of people that I know. Um, she really is relentless. Okay. Uh, Thank you guys for sticking up for me. I blocked that guy. Okay. All right. Off I go. I'll be back Monday at 5:30 p.m. and hopefully exciting things will happen over the weekend. Pray for the president. I mean, like, pray for Real 45 over the weekend because he's having the rally. And pray for protection, pray Psalm 91 over him, over all of his team, over everybody that is with him, and that there would be a wall of protection that goes ahead of him and around him and everything that's with him, and that there wouldn't be any false flags, because that is something that they want to do. And so just pray against it. Okay. All right, everybody. I have to read this comment. I try to offend the easily offended as much as possible. I want a t shirt with that on it. Okay, I will see everybody on Monday. Thanks again to my moderators. Don't forget to like this. If you're coming in for the replay, make sure that you like, follow, share, tag, all those things. Have a great weekend, everybody. Cheers.